Time Bandits wasn't your typical 1980s fantasy film. Behind Terry Gilliam's chaotic adventure lies a web of Hollywood gambles, vanishing child stars, and production secrets that nearly killed the movie before it began. From Sean Connery's accidental casting to a director's dangerous stunt gone wrong, this seemingly innocent children's tale hides darker truths about ambition, money, and the price of imagination. Terry Gilliam deliberately crafted Time Bandits as an anti-fairy tale, refusing Hollywood's sanitized approach to children's entertainment. Instead of noble heroes, he created greedy, bickering dwarves who reflected adult selfishness. Rather than a happy ending, he exploded Kevin's parents, leaving audiences stunned. Gilliam believed children understood darkness better than filmmakers admitted, while adults secretly craved wonder they'd abandoned. This wasn't accidental. Every script decision challenged conventional wisdom about family entertainment. The film walked a tightrope between innocence and cynicism, delivering adventure wrapped in social commentary. However, this controversial approach nearly cost him everything when studio executives discovered his true intentions. When Michael Palin and Terry Gilliam wrote Agamemnon's character description, they jokingly suggested someone who looks like Sean Connery or equal but cheaper stature. This throwaway line was meant as writer's humor. They expected to cast an unknown actor within their microscopic budget, but fate intervened when Connery himself read the script and burst into laughter at the self-referential gag. Instead of being offended, the legendary James Bond said yes immediately, transforming their joke into cinema history. His presence elevated every scene, bringing gravitas to Gilliam's surreal world. Yet this stroke of luck created an unexpected problem that almost derailed production entirely. Hidden within Time Bandits' cast was a secret Star Wars reunion that fans didn't discover for years. Jack Purvis had appeared in every film of the original trilogy, morphing from Jawa to Ewok. Kenny Baker, sealed inside R2-D2's shell, brought his droid experience to dwarf dynamics. On Gilliam's set, both actors laughed at the irony. They'd traded spaceships for medieval maps and slapstick comedy. Purvis later joked that Gilliam's universe felt as alien as Lucas's, just with more pratfalls. Their presence created an unspoken connection between beloved franchises, though most audiences remained oblivious. But their Star Wars background created unexpected tension when casting decisions turned personal. Casting Kevin required finding an 11-year-old who could anchor Gilliam's chaos without becoming an annoying child stereotype. Initially, Terry Gilliam focused on Craig Warnock's older brother, who auditioned confidently and delivered solid readings. The boy seemed perfect, eager, talented, and comfortable performing. But while his brother commanded attention, Craig sat quietly in the waiting room, almost invisible. Something about that stillness caught Gilliam's eye. When he asked the shy younger brother to read, magic happened instantly. Craig's calm intelligence grounded the surrounding madness rather than competing with it. However, this decision would lead to a mystery that haunts Hollywood decades later. After delivering a career-defining performance that anchored Terry Gilliam's entire vision, Craig Warnock did something unprecedented in Hollywood. He vanished completely. The 11-year-old who had beaten hundreds of auditions and earned critical acclaim simply walked away from cinema forever. Instead of pursuing typical child star trajectory, Warnock chose music, disappearing into a different creative world. His absence makes his performance feel more miraculous, a single flash of childhood honesty preserved on film like lightning in a bottle. The boy who appeared once then left without explanation. But the real reason behind his disappearance reveals something darker about Hollywood's treatment of young performers. When every Hollywood studio rejected Time Bandits as unmarketable British weirdness, former Beatle George Harrison stepped forward with a solution bordering on insanity. Through handmade films, Harrison mortgaged his own property to fund Gilliam's vision, risking personal fortune on a project industry experts considered commercial suicide. This wasn't his first financial leap. He'd already saved Life of Brian when no studio would touch it. But Time Bandits represented a bigger gamble, requiring more money and faith in a director known for ambitious disasters. Harrison didn't stop at writing checks. He composed Dream Away, embedding himself creatively. Terry Gilliam faced an impossible challenge: create a time-spanning epic visiting Napoleonic battlefields, ancient Greece, the Titanic, and Evil's Fortress with just $5 million, pocket change by Hollywood standards. Most films spent more on single action sequences, but Gilliam squeezed every penny until it screamed. Castles became towering miniatures instead of expensive sets. Armies were suggested through clever camera angles rather than costly extras. Giants rose from oceans using forced perspective rigs instead of groundbreaking effects. The crew recycled costumes from other productions, and entire worlds emerged through smoke, mirrors, and imagination. Audiences never spotted the seams in Gilliam's elaborate conjob. However, this shoestring approach created dangerous working conditions that nearly killed the production. Terry Gilliam's sets were notorious for controlled chaos, but during Time Bandits, his hands-on directing style turned genuinely hazardous. While staging a complex stunt sequence, Gilliam decided to demonstrate the move himself, leaping from a scaffold to reassure his nervous crew. Instead of sticking the landing gracefully, he crashed directly onto Shelley Duvall, who was still recovering from her traumatic Shining experience. The accident initially seemed minor, just bruises and embarrassment, but Duvall later revealed she suffered lasting nerve damage. Random shooting pains flared from her ear to her eye for years afterward, a constant reminder of Gilliam's reckless enthusiasm. But this wasn't the only on-set incident that endangered cast members' safety. Michael Palin wasn't content being just Terry Gilliam's co-writer. He inserted himself into the madness as Vincent, an awkward suitor pursuing Shelley Duvall's character. But the stammering, lovesick subplot that audiences remember wasn't in the original script at all. Palin improvised the entire romantic thread on set, weaving his signature Monty Python absurdity into the film's DNA without warning his co-director. His nervous charm played perfectly against the surrounding chaos, creating unexpected comedic layers that felt both spontaneous and essential. When a colossal giant emerges from the ocean in Time Bandits' most spectacular sequence, modern audiences assume they're watching early computer graphics. In reality, Gilliam's crew achieved the impossible, using only practical ingenuity, forced perspective, and cinematic sleight of hand. The ship perched on the giant's head was actually a carefully scaled miniature, positioned to align perfectly with live-action shots. The giant itself was a massive practical puppet, rigged with mechanical systems that gave it uncanny weight and presence. Water tanks, camera angles, and precise timing sold the illusion so completely that audiences swore they'd witnessed something supernatural. The effect cost a fraction of digital alternatives while delivering more visceral impact. However, creating this masterpiece nearly drowned the entire production when mechanical failures threatened to destroy months of work. The magical map driving Time Bandits' plot wasn't a quick prop or throwaway design. It was a painstakingly crafted artwork worthy of museum display. Gilliam demanded it feel like an authentic medieval relic, something monks might have labored over by candlelight across decades. His art team created a massive canvas scroll, hand-painting intricate constellations, labyrinthine pathways, and arcane symbols with obsessive detail. They aged the surface using authentic techniques, rubbing wax and soot deep into the canvas until it looked genuinely ancient, stained by centuries of handling. On set, actors treated it reverently, unrolling it carefully as if it might crumble. The craftsmanship was so convincing that audiences never questioned its authenticity, but this beautiful creation hid a secret that would have shocked viewers if they'd known the truth. The signature falling through holes in time concept didn't emerge from expensive special effects research. It came directly from Terry Gilliam's cutout animations in Monty Python's Flying Circus. For years, he'd made paper characters tumble, pop, and warp between absurd settings using scissors, paste, and anarchic imagination. Time Bandits simply expanded that same surreal logic into live-action filmmaking, creating gaping wounds in reality that swallowed characters whole. Instead of sleek science fiction portals, Gilliam delivered ragged tears in the universe's fabric, handmade chaos that felt organic rather than technological. The falling sequences maintained his animation's unpredictable energy, where physics meant nothing and surprise meant everything. But translating animation logic to real actors created safety problems that insurance companies refused to cover. Time Bandits' climactic showdown wasn't built from pure fantasy. Every weapon and warrior emerged directly from Kevin's childhood bedroom, blown up to epic proportions. His toy cowboys and Indians became real gunfighters trading bullets across the battlefield. Greek archer figures drew actual flaming arrows. Model tanks rolled forward with deadly intent, while even a plastic spaceship joined the cosmic fight. Kevin's chessboard reappeared inside Evil's fortress, and careful observers noticed the walls resembled giant Lego blocks in certain shots. Gilliam staged this deliberately, framing the ultimate battle through a child's imagination where playthings transformed into armies deciding the world's fate. The concept was brilliant. Instead of generic fantasy combat, audiences watched a boy's toys come alive. However, this creative decision created massive production challenges when prop departments struggled to scale miniatures believably. Terry Gilliam and Michael Palin didn't invent personality quirks for the 6 bandits from scratch. They observed their actors carefully and wrote directly from their real-life characteristics. David Rappaport, who played leader Randall, naturally commanded authority off-camera, sharp-tongued and ambitious whether filming or relaxing. Kenny Baker brought R2D2's gentle warmth to the group dynamic, creating natural chemistry with his co-stars. Other cast members displayed mischievous, temperamental, or shy tendencies that Gilliam incorporated directly into their characters. The chemistry wasn't always smooth. Baker later admitted finding Rappaport distant and difficult to connect with personally. But Gilliam saw opportunity in every tension, weaving real conflicts into scripted comedy. Arguments that played as humor on screen often mirrored actual disagreements. Yet this realistic approach created unexpected problems when personal disputes began affecting professional performance. Time Bandits was never meant to stand alone. Terry Gilliam conceived it as the opening chapter of his ambitious trilogy of imagination, with each film capturing a different life stage. Childhood's escape into fantasy, Time Bandits, Brazil, and old age clinging desperately to dreams, Baron Munchausen. Originally, he wanted to begin with Brazil, but producer Dennis O'Brien convinced him to start with something more commercially accessible. The decision proved wise. Time Bandits became a gateway drug for Gilliam's stranger visions, preparing audiences for darker territories ahead. Each film shared thematic DNA while exploring how imagination survives life's different challenges. The trilogy concept gave weight to what might have seemed like simple entertainment, transforming children's adventure into sophisticated meditation. After surviving Napoleon, Robin Hood, and evil himself, young Kevin returns home to watch his parents casually examine a smoking lump of pure evil, then explode instantly, leaving him orphaned among the rubble. Parents in 1981 were genuinely horrified by this brutal twist, expecting family films to wrap up neatly rather than traumatize children. Terry Gilliam refused to soften the blow despite studio pressure, arguing that kids already understood adults made foolish, even destructive choices daily. Why hide that truth behind false comfort? The ending stuck like an open wound, turning Time Bandits into a fairy tale with genuine teeth rather than predictable comfort. Critics debated whether it was brilliant or cruel, but audiences never forgot the shock. Every Hollywood executive treated Time Bandits like an elaborate prank. Gilliam's pitch about squabbling dwarves stealing through time holes sounded like commercial suicide wrapped in British eccentricity. With only $5 million to work with and a cast of character actors instead of bankable stars, the project seemed destined for spectacular failure. Industry insiders quietly mocked Gilliam for wasting money on unmarketable weirdness that no audience would understand or embrace. Grossing over $42 million worldwide, nearly 9 times its microscopic budget. Families came for adventure, adults stayed for satire, and word of mouth spread like wildfire. Critics praised its inventiveness while the British Academy delivered award nominations. Against every prediction, the film became Gilliam's biggest commercial triumph. Yet this success created an impossible standard that would haunt every subsequent project. For decades, Time Bandits 2 has haunted Hollywood like a production ghost, appearing and vanishing with supernatural consistency. In 1996, Terry Gilliam and Michael Palin completed a full script featuring new maps, fresh bandits, and unexplored worlds, then watched financing collapse overnight. Years later, the Hallmark Channel announced a lavish 4-hour miniseries with rumored sets and storyboards before disappearing into silence. In 2006, a comic book continuation was teased and promoted, only for the publisher to fold on the very day of release. Every attempt seemed genuinely cursed, as if the bandits themselves were sabotaging production from inside time holes. Fans collected rumors like treasure while Gilliam shrugged at the persistent bad luck. The sequel became part of Time Bandits' mythology, always slipping away just as you reached for it. But the curse had a darker origin that involves powerful entertainment industry forces. Long before home video existed, fans wanting to relive Time Bandits turned to Marvel Comics' lavish super special adaptation, illustrated by John Stokes with meticulous attention to character likenesses. The comic captured Sean Connery's gravitas and David Rappaport's intensity through bold panel artwork, translating Gilliam's surreal vision into pop art mythology. For many children, it became the only way to bring the adventure home, flipping through pages that transformed the thieves' mad dash through history into collectible art. Marvel didn't sanitize Gilliam's edges, they embraced them, delivering the same mix of comedy, menace, and absurdity in visual form. However, this success masked a tragic missed opportunity when licensing deals went horribly wrong behind the scenes. By the 2000s, Time Bandits survived mainly in degraded VHS transfers and fuzzy television broadcasts, its handcrafted magic obscured by technological limitations. For a film built on visual spectacle and meticulous detail, watching it felt like experiencing a dream through thick fog. Then, in 2014, the prestigious Criterion Collection intervened with their signature treatment reserved for cinematic masterpieces. Frame by frame, they meticulously restored the visuals, cleaned the audio, and brought Gilliam's painted worlds back to stunning clarity. Longtime fans rediscovered details in costumes, backdrops, and puppet textures that had been invisible for decades. New audiences encountered the film as Gilliam intended, sharp, colorful, and alive with craftsmanship rather than nostalgia. The restoration transformed Time Bandits from cult curiosity into preserved classic, proving that Gilliam's anarchic vision still burned bright. Time Bandits remains defiantly strange, a children's adventure stitched with adult cynicism, led by dwarves who stole maps and scenes equally. It survived studio doubt, critical confusion, and decades of sequel disasters through pure, stubborn magic. For more amazing movie facts, don't forget to watch next videos by Golden Frame.